This is our cold open. It's 14 degrees here on election day. We are in Ward 2. Just, waiting for some people.
I'm Emily. I'm Brooke.
And I'm Waylon.
And we are here today at the Winooski Senior Center interviewing voters at the polls on Town Meeting Day, March 3rd, 2026.
Hello, my name is MJ Rizzo for Town Meeting TV. We're here in Ward 4 asking voters on Town Meeting Day what is important to them.
I'm Chris.
And we are here at Essex polling site, and we just talked to a bunch of voters for the past hour. It's a chilly morning, but the sun is out.
This is a Ward 3 polling place today, and we're just asking people how they feel about items on the ballot.
We've lived in a lot of places, and so Vermont is quite special in terms of caring about whether you vote or not.
I was a little disappointed there was no choice between any of the candidates.
We didn't have in this ward a contested one. So what about you?
Yeah, I was like, it's important that the schools get funded. That's the one that we're lucky we live in a place where that usually passes, but you never know when that's going to be contentious. And
I'm not BPD's biggest fan, but it's not like BPD wouldn't get that money. It's whether or not that money would come from some other department. So I voted yes on that.
In general, I believe in student representation. What I'm going to be doing after this is trying to get more students down here to vote. We live here. I think that there's a lot of people who get pissy over students voting in elections as if though we are not one of the largest resident cohorts in the city.
We've heard from a few folks. Obviously, people are worried about rising costs, right? And so it's important to be kind of mindful of balancing that with the same quality of life that we're excited about here in Essex.
We need to put more into our education for our children.
Anyone who's willing to step up and help lead our community and our schools and make sure our kids are being served well, I think deserve compensation.
Hi, my name is Al Turcos. I am here because I'm a current member of Winooski City Council, and I'm also on the ballot today.
Hey, it's Thomas Renner, interim mayor of Winooski, and I'm running to be mayor of Winooski.
Hi, my name is Eli Ogilvy, and I'm a candidate on today's ballot for City Council.
Hello, my name is Elsie Goodrich. I'm a current member of City Council, and I'm on the ballot for re-election today.
I'm Ryan Nick, running for Ward 8 City Council.
Ward 8 City Councilor Merrick Broderick.
I'm Ken Signorello, and I'm running for Essex Select Board.
My name is Ethan Lawrence, and I have lived in Essex since September 7th, 2018. And I've served on the Select Board since April 1st, 2022. So I've actually served on the Town of Essex Select Board for over half the time that I've been a resident.
Thank you to Town Meeting TV. I'm trying not to be starstruck right now. I'm such a fan. You all are local news heroes. I'm so honored to be on. Thank you for having me.
Wow. Hello. Good evening. Thank you so much for tuning in to Town Meeting TV. You, by tuning in yourself, are a local democracy hero. So thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Bobby Lucier. I'm joined by Debbie Ingram, and we are here to unpack the results of this Town Meeting Day election today. We are joined behind the scenes by an incredible team of volunteers and staff stationed both in this studio and throughout the municipalities that we are covering tonight to bring you not only the election results, but the folks on the ballot, the voices of the folks on the ballot, and the voices of your neighbors who voted today in this election. Our team is standing by, ready to bring those results to you. You can head to results.townmeeting.tv to find the full list of our results in real time. We want to thank our generous underwriters here at Town Meeting TV before we jump in for their support of this program. This is a group of small businesses and local organizations that have pledged their support to Town Meeting TV, and we're very grateful for their support. And you'll notice that other than a brief shout out here and there for these small businesses, there are no commercials on this program tonight. This is non-commercial, public access programming that is powered by you, and we hope that you will support tonight's broadcast by making a donation at cctv.org. We are standing by with Travis Washington, who is going to be speaking with folks who are on the ballot today. And Travis, who might we hear from in Studio B?
Amazing. Thank you, Bobby. My name is Travis Washington. We will be here tonight interviewing school commissioners from Burlington, South Burlington, maybe Essex, as well as tons of city councilors and select board members. So it's a big surprise. I know we have Claire Wool and Gary Goldstein on deck. So stay tuned. Back to you, Bobby and Debbie.
Thanks so much, Travis. Debbie, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for providing some insight and some explanation here behind the elections that we're taking a look at tonight. What are the big stories, the big results that we're looking out for?
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, Bobby. Thanks to Town Meeting TV for having me again. Three of our municipalities are facing contested elections, and so we're particularly interested in them. Burlington has 2 seats on the city council that will actually dictate the balance of power, so that's very interesting. Also, South Burlington has a contested seat on their city council, and Essex has 2 seats on their select board. And of course, all 3 of those also have different money things for us to look carefully at as well. And then the other 3 municipalities that we talk about are Williston, Winooski, and Colchester. And they don't have contested elections, but they do have money to worry about, which always is important to taxpayers. So we'll take a closer look at bond votes and school budgets, especially in those places. But you know, as you said, Burlington City Council is really the most important thing going on tonight. So we'll particularly focus on that.
Yes, we will take a look at those 2 contested races in the Burlington City Council tonight, as well as those school budgets. And we do have a couple of Burlington School Board members in the studio right now who are joined by Travis Washington. And we'll hear from Claire Wool and Gary Golden in Studio B.
Amazing. Yes, I'm here joined by Claire and Gary. Thank you for being here. This year has been a pretty big year, especially there's been a lot of chatter around the school budget. How the school budget was an increase. How did you really work to pitch that to voters, and why is it increasing? Just a brief rundown.
Yes, we have wage increases, healthcare and benefit increases, and debt service increases, and that is there are 3 big ticket items that have increased the budget.
Yeah.
Oh no, it really is the case, and we only have a certain amount of control around any of those. To be competitive, we have to do the salary increases. We are part of a collective at the state level for insurance, health insurance, which was, I was still a school employee at that point, promised kind of a level playing field as far as increases. It just hasn't panned out. So each year we're looking at double-digit increases there. State House has some thoughts about how to change that, and they're kind of working their way through. But to be honest, it's sort of whack-a-mole. You know, there's a set pot of money from taxes, whereas, you know, even if you shift our burden around paying for the health insurance, who does pay? So that's what we've had to juggle.
Yeah, from what I understood from voters, it seems like they hopefully understood and understand that there's a lot of rising costs happening in all the school districts around the county. Also,
but I will say, if we did not have the debt service, the Burlingtonians are unique, where we have shouldered the entire expense of our high school and technical center campus. If we did not have that debt service, we would actually have a decrease in this budget for this voting cycle. So we have been incredibly fiscally responsible in the management of our district. You know, we are the only school district that had to fully bear that cost. Yes, the state gave us a surplus, $16 million, to help with the cleanup, but that just created a clean soil surface for us to have to then take on the responsibility. So it would be at a deficit this budget cycle if we did not have that debt service.
And I was actually just about to ask you about the new high school. I know that's opening up in the fall, and I hear a lot of people are really excited about that. What can you tell us about the process of bringing that online? Are you excited for it? Just general feeling.
No one. Oh God, I wasn't here. Claire was actually on. I'm kind of not quite a newbie at my 4th year, but It's been exciting. You know, it was sort of by circumstances forced on us, yet now we've got a 21st century high school. It's going to be an amazing facility. And then we also have a newly renovated Burlington Tech Center out at the airport, which is amazing. They have helicopters. I mean, they have planes.
Thanks to Senator Leahy.
Yes. So it's been an exciting process, but I think Claire would be the better.
Yeah, no, 5 years, 5 years in the making, and we are on time to open this spring. We are under budget in the sense that we did not require the full use of the bond, the $160 million. We notified citizens of Burlington in December that we would not need to borrow the final $6 million. So we are extremely grateful for the citizens of Burlington for their support in this unique situation that we are in, and we are so excited. We will be hosting our graduation this year, our students at the new high school, and we'll open the doors for faculty and staff to start moving in the spring and summer, and then welcome our first class this fall.
And my last and final question is probably going to be, what made you choose to be on the school board again? Like, you all have done this over and over. I'm sure you hear a lot of the complaints from tons of people about their income taxes. What inspires you to continue this public service?
The state of Vermont is an incredible place to be a learner. We value in the city of Burlington, we're surrounded by higher institutions of learning, being a college town. There is no way I would not run again to not cross the finish line with the support of our incredibly talented leader, Superintendent Flanagan, along with our entire Central District staff, our faculty and staff. We have an engaged family members. People show up and support our students, and so without a doubt, this role is unique, and I do feel a tremendous amount of support from Burlingtonians. And now at the state level, we need to feel that support with the governor to value what drives young people and families and future growth of Vermont to certain locations is how supported and valued are your public schools, and in Burlington we value them greatly. So it's an honor to hopefully be reelected tonight and serve again in this capacity as well as with Commissioner Golden. And we welcome 4 new school board members tonight, which I'm super excited. Not that it's a prerequisite. They all have students in the school district, and the energy of young families that support our schools is incredibly valuable.
Mine's kind of a weird situation. I'm a former employee of the school district. So this is almost a continuation of the work I did then with students who are at risk and who need services that have always been a little difficult for them to get. So that on one side and the other side, no one else is stepping up. So I'm here until, somebody with equal or more fervor to serve steps up. So I'm going to do my best.
Thank you, Gary.
Oh, sure.
Well, thank you both for being here, and thank you for your service and your continued service, as it may seem. So.
Shout out to you and Town Meeting TV. Thank you for your coverage, always.
Well, thank you. Back to you, Bobby W.
Thank you so much, Travis. Thank you to Claire and Gary for stopping by, and thank you for your service on the school board. We are going to take a little bit of a closer look at the Burlington ballot now. There are a few things on the ballot, Debbie, but that city council is always a sort of hotly contested sort of landscape in the Burlington political scene. What's going on in the Burlington City Council, Debbie?
Yes, it is very interesting this year. So I will just first mention Ward 3 because there's going to be a new face on the city council. Joe Kane, the progressive who had been holding that seat, decided not to run again, and Laura Sanchez Parkinson won the progressive primary, and so she's running unopposed. So that'll be a new face. But the really big story is are the two Ward 7 and Ward 8, those 2 seats. Now this can affect the balance of power from the 2 parties completely. Evan Litwin is a Democrat who is currently holding the seat in Ward 7, and he's being contested by Bill Standen, the progressive. And in Ward 8, Merrick Broderick the progressive, is running again for his seat, and he's being challenged by Ryan Nick, the Democrat. And there's also a write-in candidate, Eli Van Buren, who has really launched an organized write-in campaign, so that he might affect the mix as well. Now, the reason that this will affect the balance of power is currently there are 7 Democrats and 5 progressives on the city council, and with these 2 seats up for grabs, it could go either way. So if the Democrat holds Ward 7 and the Democrats take Ward 8 away from Merrick Broderick, then they will have an 8-4 majority, and it'll be a veto-proof majority. They can override vetoes by the mayor, so that will give them an added boost of power. If it goes the other direction, though, and Bill Standen, the progressive, defeats the Democrat in Ward 7, and the progressives hold Ward 8, then the progressives will pull it so that it's even, completely even. It'll be 6-6. So that it's very interesting.
That is interesting. Just a couple of contested races, but very important ones. And that Ward 8 race in particular, with that write-in candidate who, you know, may not be favored to win there, but in a ward like Ward 8, where there's very little turnout most years, just a few votes either way can really swing that election. So I think we're expecting that. Ward 8 is always fairly close, and I think we probably will expect a close race there tonight. We did invite both of the candidates on the ballot in Ward 8 to come in for a candidate forum, and we'll hear a little bit about just their opening statements from the candidate forum for Ward 8 in Burlington City Council.
We are a community full of people that are not afraid to challenge the status quo, to fight for progress for themselves, but also fight for progress for their neighbors and protect their neighbors. And as someone who since coming to Burlington, came into that world, and now I'm in elected office, thanks to all of that work, I'm just so grateful and so proud to be able to represent Ward 8. And I'm asking for your vote once again because the work isn't finished, and I'm excited to continue my work of making Burlington a city that we can all afford and a city that we can all call home.
Over the past decade, I've spent my time giving back to the community that's given so much to me. I've strengthened Burlington by working with local businesses, serving on the Planning Commission, and as a Justice of the Peace. Here in Ward 8, I'm especially proud to have helped restart the MPA, because strong neighborhoods begin with engaged neighbors. But right now, Burlington is struggling, and we're facing crises on multiple fronts. Housing is scarce, rents are high, and too many apartments don't match the price. We need to increase the housing supply because we shouldn't have to feel lucky when we find a good place to live, and young folks should be able to find a home and build a life and a family.
That was Ryan Nick and Merrick Broderick, the 2 candidates on the ballot in Ward 8 for the Burlington City Council. We also have a write-in candidate there in Ward 8. That's Eli Van Buren. We do have some results here. Our first results are trickling in. This is Ward 2 in Burlington. We will have them up on our website, cctv.org/TMD2026 here in a moment. But this is a good opportunity, Debbie, to jump into some of the ballot questions. So we had candidates, but we also have the school budget and a few other questions on the ballot in Burlington tonight.
Yes, and in Ward 2, the seat was uncontested, so we won't worry too much about the city councilor at the moment. But yes, the ballot items are interesting. So one is to formalize the Office of Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging in the city charter. And that's always an interesting question about putting things in the city charter. The state legislature in Vermont has to approve municipal votes on city charters. And there have been 9 in the past few years, and 5 of them are still waiting to be approved by the state legislature. So Burlington has kind of a history of trying to put forth new ideas and change their charter, and the legislature is a little slower at actually giving them approval for that. But the other big item is a police and fire tax of 5 cents to pay for 2 firefighters and 6 new vehicles. And that was last raised in 2024. But, asking voters to raise their own taxes is always fraught with peril. So we'll see how that turns out.
Absolutely. And that is an interesting one, Debbie, because that one actually seems to have the Democrats split. The Democrats usually being a voting bloc that are tough to break up, but it sounds like the Democrats in Burlington are split on the tax.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. I think the chair himself, Ben Travers, was against this. And it's one of those things that people would rather pay for even essential items like that in a different way, and they're not necessarily likely to earmark a particular amount of their property taxes to pay for things.
Right. So in Burlington facing a big budget gap yet again this year, and this would be one of the tools at the city's disposal to try and close that gap in the coming months as they prepare their FY27 budget. We also are keeping an eye on school budgets tonight, and we know that that's top of mind for a lot of voters, as it is the hefty, the majority of their property taxes for most homeowners here in Burlington and the surrounding area. And it's a sticky wicket right now. We have the state legislature is focused really heavily on reforming our state's education funding formula right now. But in the meantime, we have the system that we have, which allows local voters to approve or shoot down their individual municipalities and school districts' budget. And you can see here there are some increases, and this is in the blue, the per weighted pupil spending has gone up in Burlington, South Burlington, and Colchester, less so in Champlain Valley School District, and then actually has gone down a little bit in Winooski due to an increase in per weighted pupil spending. And those tax impacts, which it's important to mention, Debbie, are calculated prior to any potential buy down from the governor.
That's right, yes. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. The governor came out early in the session saying he wanted to earmark at least $75 million to buy down people's property taxes. A lot of the leaders in the House and Senate said that they agreed with that, but it remains to be seen whether that actually happens. I've also heard a number as high as 115 million, but I think it's really premature for school officials to bank on that kind of buy down, keeping people's property taxes down. And I have heard some of them pretty much assume that that's going to happen, but I think that's risky.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's important to be discerning about whether your school districts are projecting tax increases, including that buy down or without it. But either way, if the school budgets pass tonight, the taxpayers in at least a few of the school districts that we are looking at are going to see an increase of probably a few $100 for the average household. Our Town Meeting TV's intern Megan White put together a brief clip to try and explain some of this a little bit in a little bit more detail. So we'll turn to that now.
Why do you think that voting is important?
Voting is the cornerstone of our democracy. It's a right that somebody receives when they're eligible to vote, and everybody needs to exercise that right to participate in their democracy. We are very lucky at this time to have that right and that privilege. And if it goes unused, it's a waste. So please don't waste your vote, because it can count, and we have seen that in the past, that votes do count in very close elections.
Are there any issues that you think are like particularly important in South Burlington?
I mean, I think there's some that are important everywhere. So cost of living is on everyone's mind. So I think trying to balance what we're asking from people from revenue with what they want to accomplish in their life in other areas is important.
And why do you think it is prudent to increase the spending in order to improve the fire department and the schools?
Right now, as I understand it, South Burlington's actually in very good shape cash-wise. We've done very well with the 1% sales tax, better than most communities in the state. So that's put us in a cash positive place, and I think it's probably a good time to be investing in our assets.
People think that the school budget tax is too much for how well our schools are performing. I've heard from a few different people that for how much citizens and residents are being taxed for the projected school board spending, it is not aligned with how well the results of the local schools here are, and people are upset by that. But at the same time, they're educators and people who are former educators are no, this increased spending is how we fix this by not so very, very mixed opinions about that.
The democracy, the society depends on participation, and voting isn't the only answer, but it's one.
And I appreciate so much the people who are running for office, because it's a why do people want to do this? It takes so much time and effort, and then I'm just really, really in favor of supporting people who are interested in supporting our community.
And what would you say to people that haven't come to vote, or maybe haven't ever voted, and who don't feel like their vote matters?
It may feel that way sometimes, but it's still your right and your responsibility as a citizen to vote, to register, and to know what's going on in your community or your country.
I hope someone coming and change and improve, because Vermont is a good state. This can be better, but don't vote again and again for 35 years or so, the same people. Give a chance to new people to demonstrate their ability. Send old after 65 years, old people send home, put the young one. Give them a chance to raise and grow and change something.
Those are some of the voters who came out to vote in South Burlington tonight. We'll be looking close at the school budget in South Burlington, which is expected to be a very close election. But Debbie, we have one of the big results of the night in Burlington.
We do, yes. Ward 8 has come in, and the progressive Merrick Broderick has held his seat by a vote of 301 to 187. And that is really kind of a seismic thing. It's good for the progressives and for the mayor. So they have held that seat. Now we'll keep a watchful eye on Ward 7 and see if anything changes there. But it's important for them. There's no way now that the Democrats could have a majority high enough to override vetoes by the mayor.
That is interesting as well. I mean, and that is a very low turnout in Ward 8 as well, as we were expecting. Only fewer than 500 folks came out to vote in Ward 8, but a big win. I mean, 20-point win for the progressives in Ward 8. So they save that seat and prevent, as you said, the veto-proof majority in Burlington. We also have some more results outside of Burlington, Debbie.
We do, yes. One in Williston is quite interesting. So the big issue there was the bond for the library and the expansion of the Village Green. And in a very close vote, that has won. 1,262 votes to 1,215.
I mean,
so
that
very,
is
very
close. As it gets.
Yes, yeah.
Local democracy.
That's
I mean,
right.
That is just
Who
wow.
says your vote doesn't count, right?
That is really close.
It's very close. Yep.
Wow. And it looks like we also have another one of the big ones in Burlington tonight.
Okay.
Ward 7 will stay with the Democrats.
All
That
right.
is
Okay.
Evan Litwin, and that is a really sizable margin of victory there.
Oh, yes.
Over 1,200 votes for Evan Litwin, the Democrat, and under 300 votes for the progressive bill stand in there.
Okay, so that preserves the balance of power the way it has been. So it'll continue to be 7 Democrats and 5 progressives. So.
Okay, and we are also just still keeping an eye, and this is just one of the, we have one of the South Burlington results here, and just looking in, this is maybe 2 of 5 districts, and I'm looking at least in this district, we have a very, very close vote on the school budget. In this district, it failed, but I think this is an incomplete result. But South Burlington, as we know, is going to be really close on the school budget, Debbie.
It is, yeah, and there'll be 5 reports that we'll get, so that's only 1 out of the 5. So yes, yeah, it'd be very interesting to follow.
Yes, and we also, I think we had Essex, right?
Yes, we have Essex. There are some select board seats up for grabs. So 2 out of 3, Andy Watts, the incumbent, longtime incumbent, won one of those slots. And Ken Signorillo won the other. Oh, no, I beg your pardon. I am so sorry. That is wrong. Meg Zimmerman won the. Oh, actually, she was the top vote getter in that contest. She got over 1,000 votes. So the 2 out of the 3 are Andy Watts and Meg Zimmerman. And then for the other select board seat, 2 people running for the 1 seat, and that's Ethan Lawrence has prevailed there. 760 to 596, so that was a pretty close race. But Ethan had served on another seat, but also on the select board previously.
Interesting. So we do have the incumbent Andy Watts and Ethan Lawrence will stay on the select board in Essex, and then we have Meg Zimmerman coming on. And we also had a couple of ballot items in Essex here, Debbie.
Yeah, so one that we were watching was the asking the electorate to reduce the number of Development Review Board members from 7 to 5, and that has very narrowly passed. 774 votes to 719. So very, very close vote, but they will be reducing the DRB membership.
Right, okay, and that is an interesting one because as in Essex, you might think that the Essex Development Review Board is not the most politically exciting place in Vermont, but they have been at the center, and Essex in general has been at the center of a couple of political hot-button issues.
That's right, yes, they had to consider the Amazon distribution center there, and the DRB was what shot down the placement of Amazon. And then actually one of the things that propelled this vote to begin with was that some of the DRB members also served on the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission had been responsible for rejecting the prison proposal. So the 2 very powerful boards, and there was some overlap on that, and so voters decided they would prefer to have smaller bodies and no overlap.
Okay, so that is Essex. We've got Essex. We have the 2 big results in Burlington on the city council are in. The Democrat Evan Litwin in the New North End in Ward 7 has won by a very wide margin, and the incumbent Merrick Broderick, the progressive in the student ward, Ward 8, has won there. So the balance of power stays at a 7 to 5 advantage for the Democrats with the progressive mayor in Burlington. So no huge shakeups in Burlington City Council politics tonight. We are also keeping an eye out on the for the results of the ballot questions there, and we will have those for you as soon as we can. We know that we've seen. You can follow along with our results here at results.townmeeting.tv for more information. It looks like we have the Ward 3 results here, Debbie.
That's where the new progressive is, but she's uncontested.
Yes, and we're looking at all of the ballot questions.
And all the ballot questions there, yes.
Are passing there. So we're still waiting on South Burlington results here, but at least for Burlington in the wards that we have, so far, the ballot questions look like they are heavily favored towards passing.
Yes, yeah. Yes, another one that we had not mentioned was compensation for school board members, which is kind of an interesting thing. They are only going to be paid $2,000 a year, which is probably about 35 cents an hour, and it only adds $24,000 to the school budget. But public servants appreciate it when people give them a little bit of a boost and say thank you.
Yes, just a little bit of a boost there potentially for Burlington's school board members. We are joined now in Studio B by City Councilor Jean Bergman, the Burlington City Councilor, who's speaking with Travis Washington.
Oh, amazing. Thank you, Jean, Ward 2 City Councilor, for joining me here. How did today go? Talked to a lot of voters today. I saw you out there.
I did talk to a lot of voters. It was really quite nice, although, you know, to be honest, the interactions at the polls are really just very friendly neighborhood things. They're not many political conversations that we have, but I feel really, really good about representing folks, and the outcome, I think, is, you know, this shows that folks are happy with me too, so I'm pretty pleased.
Do you think it's important for a city councilor to be at the polls on Election Day, regardless if they're being elected or not?
You know, I know that if they're not running, it is less important, I think, you know, because the focus is on the person who's running. But for me, and I ran unopposed and got like 78% of the vote, which means that whatever that number is of people of the total votes. So people did vote on that, but that it's important to be there for people, to tell them that you're their city councilor, to give them the opportunity to talk. So yeah, I mean, for me, I speak for myself when I say I really care about my neighborhood, all the neighborhoods in Ward 2, and me being out there is like seriously important. So it is worth being there from 7 to 7.
And what was the largest issue you heard from voters today?
Well, housing, and yeah, I mean, housing is the big issue in our ward. We're a renter ward. Rents are outrageously high, and I think uncalled for. And so that's the issue that people were pretty focused on. Democracy is a big thing in terms of people getting a chance to weigh in. So I heard folks talk about not being happy with things getting kept off the ballot.
Right, and we can get to that as well. But since housing was such a big issue, and I noticed on the ballot there was nothing related to housing, and I feel like for years and years this has been a largely talked about issue. Do you want to talk about like what we could do to bring to voters something that's related to housing? Because I know so many are concerned.
Well, so one of the things is we have 2 items that we did bring to voters that are sitting on the wall at the legislature: just cause eviction, and then this rental notification for evictions and for rent increases. And we need, because the housing crisis in Burlington is significantly worse than in the rest of the state, we really do need to have that authority to create our own rules on both of those items. So voters have weighed in. They weighed in and overwhelmingly supported those. So asking voters for an additional type of regulatory authority that we need to go to the state is sort of a political question that we have to figure out the calculus for. And then you get into the rub with regards to affordability. So to build social housing, which I really strongly believe in decommodifying a significant section of our amount of our housing, so that people can live, because housing is a right that people need. Otherwise, they live on the street, like outside of my house, which people have done, over the years, and that plays into affordability, and an affordability for everybody. So I'm actually very disappointed that we did not have the housing item that we did request the city council try to bring up, which was a tax fairness question. And that would have given, it would have given us an indication of how people felt about renters and homeowners about this proposal to lower property taxes for 2/3 of the homeowners in the city of Burlington. And people were denied that by the Democratic majority. And progressives opposed that, and I'm happy that the election, at least we kept the seats that we've got now, and we'll continue to have to work through that. But a housing agenda has to include tax fairness and affordability for moderate as well as the lowest income people. It needs to do it for homeowners as well as renters. We need to pair them, and not a single initiative is not going to, there's not going to be one. I mean, that's just hoping for perfection. That's hoping that Donald Trump somehow changes his spots, right? It's not going to happen. So we've got to do it, and we've got to do a lot of different things, and put them all on the table. And we've got some ideas. The mayor, who I see over there, has got a bunch of initiatives that we've got that we'll be addressing. We've got a tax fairness plan and committee that we'll be working through and getting a report on to bring things to the voters. So I'm hopeful that we will make some progress in the next year on that.
Well, thank you very much, Gene, and thank you for being with me today. Back to Studio A with Bobby and Debbie for more on our results.
Thank you so much, Travis. Thank you, Gene Bergman, Ward 2 City Councilor, for stopping by tonight. It looks like we also have the Mayor of Burlington, Emma Mulvaney-Stanek, in the studio, who we'll be speaking with shortly. But we have, honestly, a good chunk of the election results in tonight. As we said, the Burlington City Council is staying put as far as the balance of power between Democrats and progressives. The Democrats with 7 seats and the progressives with 5. But let's take a look at our results here on our website. We have the Essex town budget. Looks like it's going to pass.
Yes. Yes, it is.
As well as this is a housekeeping item about contribution to a human services fund in Essex. That will pass. This is a question about building a new municipal complex for Essex. It looks like folks are psyched about that.
Yeah, so just the design phase.
Just the design phase,
but yes,
yep. No big money commitments there,
nope.
But Essex approving the municipal complex design phase there. And this was an interesting one, and that is quite close, Debbie. So the Essex Development Review Board is now, if these results hold, will go from 7 members down to 5, which could have a big impact for some of these conversations around the Amazon warehouse and the prison that is potentially being built there. Also the Select Board.
Yes, that's very interesting. So 2 new seats on the Select Board, one going to Andy Watts, the longtime incumbent, and the other to Meg Zimmerman, newcomer. And then in the other Select Board seat, Ethan Lawrence has prevailed, and he was on the Select Board previously, filling another seat, but he will stay on the Select Board.
All righty, that is, I think, what we have for Essex. We do have some other results around, I think, Williston and Burlington, but that is, so you can find all of our results tonight at results.townmeeting.tv. We also, there's the Williston result, and the town budget is looking pretty good there, Debbie.
Yes, there was a small increase there, but that passed. And then the big story was the library and Village Green bond, which has just narrowly squeaked by 1262 to 1219.
That is a very, very close ballot question vote there, and voters just narrowly approving that construction for a significant addition to the Williston Library.
Yes, yeah. And then setting up a reserve fund. This is basically kind of a housekeeping measure that passed. And then authorizing half a penny for the Environmental Reserve Fund passed overwhelmingly. And Then changing the listers, we had volunteer listers there in Williston, and now there's going to be a professional assessor. Gene Jensen ran unopposed as the incumbent, and McHugh Devitt was running for the first time, but also unopposed on the select board. Library trustee passed, also he was uncontested. And then these are some others. The Champlain Valley School District from Williston, also uncontested. And so was the town clerk, longtime town clerk, Sarah Mason.
There you go. So that's the results we have for Williston. We mentioned that we also have most of the results for Burlington in. The balance of power staying put there in Burlington. And we also have the mayor of Burlington, Emma Mulvaney-Stanek, in the studio, who is standing by with Travis Washington. Travis.
Thank you. Yes, I'm here with Mayor Emma Mulvaney-Stanek of Burlington. Nice to see you again, Mayor. Awesome. So the first question I want to start out with is, what's one thing that voters don't know that you've accomplished in the past year, or may not know, that you're really proud of and you want to share with people?
Great. Of course, I'm ready to talk about the ballot and the nighting. So we're having some early reporting, which is looking promising for Burlington. But I guess in the last year, what would I say? I think really how much momentum we're really making on community safety in particular. I just held a press conference about a week ago, which you all cover, which I so appreciate in its entirety. And we started to look at the measurable data that we have for 2025. And folks might have missed that press conference. So I encourage folks to look it up on your YouTube channel to watch the full data. But it really shows a trend in the right direction on the things we can concretely measure in terms of violent crime rates going down. The numbers are closer to where they were in 2021, so a real decline in those figures and metrics over the last 3 years, which is very important. Also, just in general, just how people are able to call and get support from the police department now and our more comprehensive community safety system. People know who to call in many different scenarios, and the public is so much better educated, and our system is so much better supported. So now folks can really feel how we're having a comprehensive response and not just reliant on police officers. I think that's probably the biggest piece, because we've been hard at work rebuilding our police department. Strong new leadership under Chief Burke. It will be a year this month now. We're in March, where he took the helm of that department and really started to piece by piece put trust back into that department, but also the kind of resources strategically based on what we can afford into that department as well.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And yes, we can start getting into the ballot a little bit. So from what I understand, everything passed. And talking to a lot of voters this morning, a lot of people were really concerned about their taxes, property taxes, of course. How do you rationalize raising new taxes for something like public safety, police, and fire when people are kind of more in that penny pinching atmosphere and attitude?
Yeah. Well, affordability is one of the reasons I ran for mayor. And last year we took that very, very seriously in building the budget. And we very purposely did not have a tax rate increase question to voters for that purpose, that we needed to really tighten our belts, look at how we had been spending our resources, looking at understanding our budget and making it easier for folks to understand in the city around how we had, unfortunately, over the last 10 years, overgrown the size of our operating obligations, our expenses, basically, while not really looking at the revenue side. Our grand list has been very sluggish. It's only grown about an average of 1% year over year. That's why when I talk about a chronic structural budget gap, where we have now faced a third year and we're building for next year, we knew we needed to start coming up with a new balanced approach that not only looks at reducing and strategically right-sizing our government, the size of what we're able to afford, but also being very purposeful and thoughtful of when we do ask for a tax rate increase. So I think the vote, which I think I saw is coming in at about 70% support for the tax rate increase to police and fire. Those are two splinter taxes where those resources can only be used for traditional police and fire. That shows the trust that I think voters have in what we've been diligently doing with our budget, where we're presenting a balanced approach, one that right sizes but also asks for a modest and strategic increase for the tax rate increase. That amount for the 5 cents on those two splinter taxes will raise $3 million towards our about $10 to $11 million budget gap. So that's huge. And thank you, voters. That was very important as we continue to move this budget forward. But it also, I think, shows for folks that they understand that is essential for us to continuing the momentum we started on community safety that I just spoke to a minute ago.
Wonderful. And then another item was the REIB charter change. And as we've seen for the past few years, I think 5 of our 14 charter changes will not be picked up or discussed at the legislature. How confident do you feel about having this charter change go through the legislature?
Well, the legislative session is not over yet, so we're still pushing those charters, just to be clear, and we are getting closer to getting some hearings and momentum on a couple key ones. But we do have a lot of charters as the city of Burlington, and it really depends on the topic. Burlington often is sort of the leader on a lot of important policy discussion items here in Burlington that start with a charter change. There really should be a larger state conversation. I've long thought about that in terms of prohibiting firearms in places that serve alcohol. That should be a state conversation. But we've now waited 10 plus years for this question to be able to be local policy for the state to take action. So we're continuing to push locally so we can have that be a component of our community safety system. And on that item alone, whenever Texas and Florida lap us, they've had on the books as a state the prohibition of having firearms in places that serve alcohol. It makes you really pause and wonder, what are we so afraid of? And if anything, let's just at least look at the science. And when brain chemistry changes when you're under the influence of anything, but alcohol in particular, you are much more likely to cause harm with a firearm. So it is just basic science at that point. But for the REIB charter, it's looking like the voters have supported that about 57-58% tonight, which again, thank you voters. That's a really important signal to our entire community, especially in these times where civil rights are being eroded on the federal level, that we can reaffirm our values here in Burlington, the racial equity, but also inclusion, and really making sure that those values are there for LGBTQ plus folks, for our immigrants, for our refugees, for folks living with disabilities. That is what the broad scope of REIB is about. And this is chartering in our, basically our city constitution, that work will always continue, regardless of who the mayor is, regardless of who city council is, regardless of who the president is. And we will do our best when we get down to the State House. We're already getting our State House crew, our state delegation ready to receive this charter, to steward it through the process. And I'm confident that we will just continue to be hard at work and moving these items. I am not giving up. Former legislator, it takes a few rounds sometimes to advance charters, especially when it's a newer concept and the legislative body has changed in the last cycle of elections on the state level. So we have our work cut out for us, but I am confident and committed to making sure this gets across the finish line.
Well, thank you for joining me, Mayor. Back to you, Bobby and Debbie, in the studio.
Thank you so much, Travis, and thank you, Mayor Emma Mulvaney-Stanek, for stopping by. As noted there, we do have all the results from all 8 wards in Burlington. It does look like all 4 of the ballot questions there have passed. That includes the school budget, which is passed by a significant margin, as well as, and this was the one that we thought that might be close, Debbie, the police and fire tax, and that one has passed by a really significant margin.
Yeah, I think that really is indicative of the fact that Burlingtonians have been concerned about public safety. There's been a lot of concern about what's going on downtown and potential crime, and I think anything that's supporting the police at this point is actually doing well in Burlington.
That is interesting, yeah. Affordability an issue, but public safety is still top of mind for Burlingtonians. We also have the REIB office is going to be enshrined in the, well, actually, we can't say that for sure, as we heard from the mayor just now.
Exactly, the mayor was, absolutely right.
You never know these days with a charter change, but at least the voters of Burlington have expressed their approval for the establishment of the REIB office there. And then also that little stipend for our school board members, and I do mean little.
Yes.
$2,000 a year to serve on our school board. Up from, I think, nothing.
That's right.
So
better than nothing.
Better than nothing, I suppose. So that is all the results from the Burlington election, and we are not okay. We also have results from. We also have results from South Burlington. Incomplete results here, but it does look like the school budget is going to be really close.
It's going to be very close, which is exactly what South Burlington leadership was concerned about. They were rightly so. 2 years ago, the budget failed twice, and last year it barely squeaked by. Even the school board itself only passed this budget by a 4-3 vote, and it's looking really, really, really close. So we'll continue to wait that out and see what actually happens.
That is interesting. And then the other close race to watch in South Burlington is that city council race. And we don't have all the results here there yet, but it does look like that's going to be a close one. Beth Stigman and Amy Allen.
That's right. Yes, two newcomers. Yes, it looks like it's going to be very close. They both had, they each had different South Burlington leaders endorsing them. So I don't think the voters could probably be hurt too much because it seems like both of them have their strong qualities, but we'll see which one actually prevails at the end of the evening.
So there you go for South Burlington. Still waiting on a couple of districts there in South Burlington. But as we said, all of the Burlington results are in. All of the Burlington ballot items have passed. And the balance of power remains on in Burlington, 7 Democrats and 5 progressives. So the Democrats maintain their majority, but fall short of their hopes of a veto-proof majority, Debbie.
That's right. Yes, they'll have to be content with a kind of narrow majority, but they've been trying to make the most of that. So it'll just be business as usual going forward.
Yes, and as we mentioned, the city councilors in Burlington, we do have one of the Burlington city councilors, Democrat Sarah Carpenter, is in the studio with Travis Washington. Travis.
Amazing. Thank you for joining me, Councilor Carpenter. So yes, it's an exciting day. You're elected again as city councilor. Yes. What made you choose to do this job again?
Again. Well, I really do love the job. I love Burlington. I'm from Burlington, so I'm happy to contribute what I can, with past skills, helping the city run, giving my opinion, trying to move things in the right direction. The city's a big machine, and it takes a lot of collective minds to make it run. And I think the councilor's role in providing that kind of support is interesting, and hopefully, as I said, I contribute something to that.
Amazing. And so one thing I was hearing a lot from voters this morning was a lot about property taxes and housing.
Yes.
How do you reconcile to voters like any like the school budget, even the 0.5% or 0.5% tax increase to voters?
Well, the school budget is very complicated, and the people need to understand that's over 2/3 of our taxes. In really, at the end of the day, controlled by the state. So a lot of it's out of our hands, and I'm not an expert on school funding, but that's where we've got to pay the attention to, is how that relationship to the municipalities with the state. We cannot control that funding revenue stream, and that's frustrating. So we're sort of left with 30% of our taxes, and a quarter of that is debt service and retirement, which is, again, hard to control. A more smaller piece for splinter taxes like the bus. So our little piece is not a lot of the pie. And, we needed that 5-cent increase, I think. And we're still going to have a lot of cuts. And I think cuts that people won't be happy about, but we're going to have to look at that. And how we get our collective hands around that is a tough one because we're so small. And how do you reconcile what we would like with how you get the revenue? Because the property tax is our only source. Maybe that ought to change, and we ought to spend more time looking at income tax, which is, again, a state-controlled activity.
And talking more about spending, a lot of voters did say that they were apprehensive to the REIB charter change, worrying that budget was going to skyrocket and that kind of stuff. Do you have any opinions about those kind of statements? Do you have anything you want to clarify?
I think a lot of people didn't understand that. We've had an REIB office since 2019, so it's basically in the budget. So there was no change to the budget. And in fact, we have less folks now than we did during the height of COVID, when we needed folks for health programs. For me, it was a affirmation that DEI work is critical. I will say the whole charter process itself is cumbersome and not something I love. Why or why not do you need to put a department in a charter? Personally, I would kind of change it all, but I think the sense was we needed to make REIB equal with the other departments. Do we need to do a charter rewrite? Probably we do, just globally, because I think it's outdated. But I think for the time being, affirming that DEI is something that's equal and important in our operations was the right thing to do. It didn't increase the budget. It didn't. It was already there.
Well, thank you, Councilor, and thank you for joining me here. Congratulations again. Back to Bobby and Debbie with more results.
Great, thank you so much, Travis, and thank you, Councilor Carpenter, for stopping by. An interesting point that Councilor Carpenter made there about the approach. Do you go for a charter change, or do you just make it happen outside of the charter, Debbie?
Yes, yeah, that's. I mean, it's interesting. I think that there is more weight to actually change the charter and to have the voters really speak to that and get behind it. And it would be even more impactful if the legislature supported it and acted on it quickly. Now, the reason that it takes so long is because Vermont is a Dillon's rule state instead of a home rule state, and this goes back to the 1800s. We have a very long tradition of having our legislature try to support. And it gives some sense of, our motto is freedom and unity, right? So it gives some sense of unity if you can put it in a charter, then your local electorate votes for it, and then the rest of the state through the legislature supports it. So there is some sense of greater impact going through this process. But as the councilor said, it can also be cumbersome.
Right, and a number of charter changes that have passed according to the voters of Burlington, but are still waiting in the legislature, including restrictions on firearms, right, and a number of other issues. We are now joined in the studio by Councilor Merrick Broderick, who's a progressive who has won his election today in Ward 8. This was a contested election. It was an election against Democrat Ryan Nick, and Travis is standing by with Merrick now.
Yes, I am here with Councilor Broderick. Congratulations, Councilor. I understand you won your contested race today. So first off, what made you decide to run for city council again?
Yeah, thank you. A lot of things I think influenced my decision to run again, but I think the most important one to me was the acknowledgement by members of my community that the work isn't done to make Burlington a city that all of us can afford to live in and thrive in, but also that I was the best person to continue that work and continue that fight, and that was affirmed today.
Amazing. And are there any committees that you're on that you want to stay on, or any committees you're interested in and hoping to add your voice to?
Yeah, I think I quite enjoy my time on the Transportation, Energy, and Utilities Committee, working on our climate work and our work just supporting our public services and making them stronger. So I think that's the number one that I would like to stay on. And I think in terms of one that I would like to join, I think in order to push for the type of transformative change that we need for people, things like community option to purchase and rent stabilization, those things are going to have to go through the charter process. And that's a very long process, and as we know from state politics, a very hard one for a place like Burlington to get things through, in addition to it having to be approved by the voters. But I think the Charter Change Committee will be a place where I would really like my voice to be heard in pushing for things like that.
Okay, wonderful. And housing was what I kept hearing this morning at the polls. How many more units does Burlington have to build in order to start actually addressing this crisis? Like you have a lot of college students in your ward, and I know that's a huge issue there. So how many units, what are we doing to reach that goal of actually making it affordable to live here?
Yeah, for sure. To answer your question, thousands of units, in as quickly an amount of time as we possibly can. And I think that work is already beginning. Of course, we have the relatively recently adopted neighborhood code that the mayor's administration is working on expanding and making it easier for densification to happen in our city that will allow for the building of more housing. And in terms of ensuring that as much of that housing as possible is permanently affordable, I think that comes down to looking at all of our options. It looks at investing more in our housing trust funds so that we can move that money to places like the Champlain Housing Trust that steward permanently affordable housing, leveraging our connections with the state, like securing more investment from like what the Treasurer's Office did with the Hula project relatively recently. Opening up as many doors as possible in order to, yes, not just build more housing, but ensure that Burlingtonians now and in the future can actually live them in there.
And one last thing, was there anything on the ballot that you were like super excited to vote for today, personally?
Yeah, I mean, I was, I think, of course, enshrining our REIB office as a city department that will, I mean, as Councilor Carpenter just said, it's that's an office that more than deserves to be on equal standing and equal security to any other city department. It informs all. It informs all of the work that the city should be doing and ensuring that we are leading with equity. And school commissioners certainly deserve to be paid, and I'm very happy that they will be.
Thank you so much, Councilor Broderick. And we have more to go in the show. Bobby and Debbie, back to you.
Great, thank you so much, Travis. That was Councilor Merrick Broderick, who won his election in Ward 8, but with very low turnout in Ward 8, Debbie.
Very low turnout, and yeah, it really makes me want to bring to people's attention, you know, if you're out there watching, you probably care, so I guess maybe I'm preaching to the choir, but you know, some of these races, you know, it was 19% turnout for that race. You know, very few numbers of votes. People say, oh, my vote doesn't count, but that is so not true because, you know, just a few votes here and there really makes the difference.
We see it every year, at least in you know, somewhere on these ballots, we see a very, very close election. And so we did have a very, very close election in South Burlington. We're going to pivot now to the results in South Burlington. We have all of our South Burlington results in. It looks like the city budget has passed in South Burlington. The big one, the school budget, has passed very narrowly in South Burlington. It looks like just over 100 votes there. That was one of the big ones we thought might go down tonight, Debbie, and that was a very similar margin to last year.
That's right. And you know, this budget that was presented did have some cuts in it. It cut nurses, particularly school nurses, except for the brunt of these cuts, but also comms and tech people, but not so much in the classroom. So at least voters saved the secondary budget that they were going to present. Actually cut some of the education positions, so at least some of that was preserved.
Right, and that was split even among the school board. It sounded like there were a couple school board members, including maybe the chair of the school board, that did not support this budget moving forward. But here we are, and it's passed.
That's right. Yeah, it only passed the board 4-3. So yes. Very close. Very close.
And then the city council in South Burlington, that was a contested race that we were looking at tonight, and that was a very close race.
And that has been decided by only 31 votes. Here we go again with your vote really does matter.
I can see only 31 people right now.
I know, that's right. That's right.
That is a very close margin. So Beth Zygmunt, who is a radiologist at UVM Medical Center, who had the endorsement of many of the sitting city councilors here, was challenged by Amy Allen, who had a background in international development and had fewer endorsements from the sort of the South Burlington establishment, but did have the endorsement of Senator Tom Chittenden and seemed to run a very strong campaign, it looks like, Debbie.
That's right, yeah. I think it was, they both really wanted it and ran energetic campaigns. And so that, and you know what, that's good for democracy, though. I'm really happy to see that. Condolences to Amy, because it smarts when you lose a close election. But I hope she runs again, and congratulations to Beth for really going out there and getting it and getting that narrow margin.
Yes. So Beth Zygmunt is one of the newest South Burlington City Councilors. Also on the ballot in an uncontested race was Andrew Chalnick, the incumbent, who is standing by with Travis Washington. Travis.
Thank you. I'm here with Councilor Chalnick. Councilor, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So what made you decide to run for City Council again? This is your second time, from what I understand.
Well, look, South Burlington's a treasure. I love the city, and I've really enjoyed being on the council. I think we have a great council. It's a very civil council. The city is a really good city to represent. People are engaged, people care, and we've been able to do really good stuff, so I wanted to continue that.
Amazing. Thank you. And from what I understand, from speaking to a lot of voters today, property tax increase is a very big deal. And so how do you reason putting something like the fire department extension onto the ballot, knowing where voters feel like a little bit tighter with their wallets?
Yeah, well, I mean, the fire ballot bond passed, I think, pretty nicely with healthy margins. That bond will not be paid from general fund dollars. It's paid through rental registry fees and assessments on some new construction. And we hope that when the construction is bid out, that it'll come in less than the bond. So we'll see what that happens. And it's a necessary addition as the city grows. We're now providing services to really households across the city: electrical inspections, fire inspections for rental units, electrical inspections for all other housing, and we needed that space to be able to provide that service.
And I also know that the city budget was at or near inflation with its increase. How are we giving up anything as the city of South Burlington with like cutting any funding or programs or anything?
Yeah, look, we've been really lucky. Our grand list is growing. Our local option tax is healthy. Some other revenues are healthy, and we've been able to, provide all the city services that the city expects. And we've been able to also add some things. So we've got now in the budget that just passed, salary for a new economic development director, someone else that's going to help us in our downtown. We've provided some funding for a downtown organization, 3BC3, some other things. So we've been able to continue, I think, excellent service delivery and actually expand while keeping the municipal taxes flat in real dollars, which was really important to everyone on the council to keep that flat in real dollars.
And yes, I've sat through a lot of your meetings. I can confirm that was really important. I kind of want to talk about committees a little bit. From what I understand, you're on a lot of committees. Are there any that you gravitate towards? Are there any that you want to be on to add your voice to?
Sure. So I've been on the Energy Committee, Natural Resources Committee. Right now I'm a liaison to the Economic Development Committee. I'm a liaison to our sextons and to our bike ped. We have great committees. We have an amazing community, folks that volunteer their time, that have tons of experience, tons of special experience and relevant, expertise. And all our committees are great. We'll see how it shakes out, who wants to do what as we reorganize in the new term. I may switch it around, but you know what? They're all good. It's good to meet people, to learn what people think, to learn what they want to do, and to help our committees be the best they can.
Wow. Thank you so much, Councilor.
I want to just say a couple of words about some of the races. We had two really excellent candidates for the 2-year seat. It was a hard-fought campaign, and I think both candidates ran a really good campaigns, and it turned out to be a really close race. And what that kind of tells me is that, we need to make sure that all voices are at the table going forward. Obviously, the town divided, I guess, on a bunch of issues pretty closely, and I'm really, I'm glad that Beth won. I think she'll be a great addition to the council. She's I know her to be a fierce advocate for environmental justice, for social justice, and I hope Amy's voice will also be at the table, and she'll continue to be involved, and her supporters will continue to be involved in politics because that's the only way that we'll get durable policy done in South Burlington when everyone's at the table together and we have, supermajority of political will for getting things done.
Okay, well, thank you officially, Councilor, and I'm going to have to toss it right back to Bobby and Debbie in the studio.
Great, thank you so much, Travis. That was City Councilor Andrew Chalnick from South Burlington, who is reelected, an incumbent there who is running unopposed in South Burlington. We also have, it's important to mention here that Town Meeting TV is one of 24 access centers across the state of Vermont, and our friends over at Lake Champlain Access Television are also watching the Town Meeting Day election results tonight, and we're going to toss it over to our friends at LCA TV for a recap of their results over there.
Few early results that have come in. We're going to start here at our home base in Colchester and look at the results from the articles on the ballot this year and the candidates. The town budget of $18.16 million this year did pass. The yeses were 1,433, the noes 865. The school budget as well of $70.1 million passed. Yeses there, 1,216, and the noes 1,083. So both town and school budgets passing in Colchester tonight. The other article on the ballot is the Public Safety Capital Plan, $30,750 a year for 5 years. That passed easily. The yeses 1,909 and the noes 386. So everything passing in Colchester tonight, and no contested races. Charlie Papillo is returning to the select board for a 2-year term with 1,829 votes. Maureen Dakin returning to the select board for a 3-year term with 1,846 votes. School board, Jennifer Fath and Lindsay Cox both returning. Jennifer with 1,811 votes for a 2-year term, and Lindsay with 1,778 votes for a 3-year term. Angela McDonald is the lister for 3 years with 1,825 votes. Scott Barrett, the moderator, for 1 year, 1,842 votes. And Tony Fortini Josie, a 5-year library trustee in Colchester with 1,873 votes. So a calm night in Colchester, all articles passing, all candidates unopposed and returning to their seats or going to a seat for the first time. Heading up Route 7 to Georgia, we have some results there. Starting with the select board, Kelly Bosenberg running unopposed for a 3-year seat, returning to that.
Thanks so much to our friends at LCA TV there who are taking a look at the election results in Colchester, and it does sound like the school budget passed there as well, Debbie. So it's a good night for school budgets.
It is, and that's interesting actually, given the fact that we've had so much brouhaha over across the state over how we determine our property taxes, our education taxes based on our school budgets. But I think, Vermonters keep sending the signal that they like local control of their budgets. And that really has been a big factor in trying to reform our system.
We're also joined in Studio B now by write-in candidate for Ward 8 Burlington City Council, Eli Van Buren, who's joined by Travis Washington.
Amazing. Yes, I'm joined with Eli Van Buren. So Eli, from what I understand, you ran a write-in campaign in Ward 8. Can you talk to us a little bit about why you chose to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of shocked. Do you want me to hold this microphone? Okay. I'm kind of shocked because what started as kind of something that I thought was funny turned into a very outpouring of support from so many people. People I don't even know reached out. My campaign page got 4,000 people coming in to see it. And so it's been a wild ride, and I got a really good look into the political process here. And I got to know Merrick really well, actually. He reached out and we had dinner together and just talked politics and that kind of thing. So yeah, really cool experience. I don't think I want to do it again, but yeah, what was your question?
Oh, why did you choose to put up a flyer and be like, vote Eli Van Buren? That's what we want to know. Like, that's awesome.
Well, it all started when I found this wolf meme on Instagram of this blue wolf with a sword that said, "Me protecting all of you." And I thought it was really funny. And I have a passion for making posters in Canva. And at the time, I had recently watched the open forum that y'all hosted. And I wasn't super impressed by either Nick Ryan or Merrick. And I was like, I feel like they're not really talking about, I don't know, the important stuff. I mean, also granted, there was a lot of call-in questions, so like maybe they weren't able to get around to that kind of stuff. But I just kind of like, maybe in a moment of slight mania, I was like, I'll just do it. And I printed out 3 posters and stapled them to 3 telephone poles. And all of a sudden it became a movement.
Well, thank you so much for your campaign, Eli, and thank you for joining us in the studio. It looks like we're going to run through the results again, and Bobby and Debbie will send us out of here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Travis. Thank you, Eli. Incredible example of a write-in campaign popping up when, there are 2 candidates who seem to have all the attention.
Democracy in action,
Democracy
Bobby.
in action. There it is. We will run through the full results in just a moment here. The big stories of the night, school budgets, at least the ones that we are following, have passed in Burlington, South Burlington, Colchester, Winooski. And we also saw the Burlington City Council balance of powers remain the same, 7-5 in favor of the Democrats. Merrick Broderick, the incumbent progressive, maintaining his seat, as well as Evan Litwin, the incumbent Democrat, maintaining his seat. On the Burlington City Council, the property tax in Burlington, the property tax increase in Burlington also passed. We'll get to the full results in just a moment, but first we'll take a little bit of a closer look at the education spending and school budget process and some of the school budgets that we were looking at tonight. Town Meeting TV intern Megan White prepared a clip to break down some of the school budgets that we were looking at that passed today.
School districts across the county are proposing a rise in school budgets for the 2026 to 2027 school year to be voted on during town meeting day. Across the state, there is a projected 11.9% average increase in property taxes being proposed from preliminary school budgets. In Burlington, the school district is proposing a 4.47% increase in budget from last year, hoping for over $140 million. They are aiming to keep below the state average with an estimated 4.7% increase in property taxes.
And there are no additions in this budget. So this is really just maintaining our current level of service, factoring for the decline in enrollment. It really reflects the increase in salaries and benefits and sort of the amount that we need to just continue to run the district.
About half of the projected statewide 11.9% average increase is due to anticipated rises in school district spending. The other half comes from the lack of a one-time allocation of around $100 million that was given to the State Education Fund last year to lower tax rates. This has been a common practice in recent years by the legislature and the governor. Burlington's projected property tax rate assumes that Governor Scott and the Vermont legislature will contribute $75 million to property tax relief across the state, reducing the proposed impact from 8.99% to 4.7%.
So it's really going to see how does it shake out in the Vermont legislature over the next couple of weeks and months, but we feel pretty confident that at least $75 million of those tax dollars are going to help offset the costs this year.
In South Burlington, next year's budget proposal includes a 3.4% increase, which will lead to an 8.76% school tax increase.
And the board did that very purposely. They wanted to tie a budget that was tied to inflation. And so they used that number here for northeast part of the country, and it was at 3.4%, which still means there's reductions because when you take into account the fact that there are always expenses that continue to rise, health care, salaries, wages, insurance.
Sure.
We know inflation's been out of control things increase. So to actually not have to make any cuts, we would have needed to increase our budget by about 6%.
In Winooski, there's a 4.59% budget increase being proposed.
Good news is we don't anticipate any increase in our homestead tax rate. Instead, we're projecting a 1% decrease.
This decrease, however, is projected through a reduction of around 10 jobs. According to the tax department, education property taxes have risen more than 40% in the last 5 years, despite a decline in student enrollment and layoffs across the county.
Thank you so much to Town Meeting TV intern Megan White for putting that research together. As we mentioned, Debbie, all of the school budgets that we were following tonight in Burlington, South Burlington, Colchester, Winooski have passed. And we're going to take a look at all the results now. We do have all of the results that we were looking for tonight in the school budget in Burlington has passed. You can find all of these results at results.townmeeting.tv. This is another one, another big one, Debbie. The police and fire property tax increase has passed by a big margin in Burlington.
Yes, and so did the charter change to establish the Office of Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging by a big margin. Compensation, a very small amount for school board members, $2,000 a year, tiny little salary, but that passed. And the several city council races were uncontested. Ward 1, Carter Neubauser won. Jean Bergman also prevailed in an uncontested race. Laura Sanchez Parkinson is a new face, but she was uncontested. Sarah Carpenter in Ward 4, Ben Travers in Ward 5, and Becca Brown McKnight in Ward 6 were all uncontested. But the big races were Ward 7, where the Democrat incumbent, Evan Litwin, won by a pretty wide margin, and in Ward 8, where the progressive incumbent won by a pretty wide margin. So the balance of power has remained the same on the Burlington City Council.
Yes, that is interesting, the balance of power remaining the same on the Burlington City Council. We also have school board elections here in Burlington. We heard from a couple of these folks tonight in the studio, Gary Golden and the board chair, Claire Wool, were with us earlier this evening to talk a little bit about the Burlington High School as well as the new Burlington High School that has just been built and the Burlington school budget, which was proposed and passed by a wide margin tonight. So we have a passing school budget and a new slate of Burlington school board commissioners.
That's right, yes. And we also have inspectors of elections. All were uncontested, so we're scrolling through all the wards there.
Yes, these are, if you went out to vote in Burlington today, you may have spoken with these heroes of democracy, some of which are incumbents, some of which are new, but which play a role in ensuring that these elections go off without a hitch, which is no small feat in today's world, and is a really important part of our local democracy.
Very important part, yes, definitely.
Moving on to Essex now. The town budget in Essex has passed by a wide margin. The big election in Essex is the, there were a couple of big items, ballot questions there. This is a small one about the Human Services Fund, but Essex is considering building a new municipal complex on Main Street, and voters have at least indicated that they're up for the design phase, Debbie, of this new municipal complex.
That's right, yes. So they're taking the first step forward, really.
Yes, and then the DRB, this was an interesting one with, it was very close here. The DRB in Essex is set to be reduced from 7 members down to 5, which could have a significant impact on some of the hot button issues related to Amazon, as well as the prison being proposed there. Essex Select Board, we have Andy Watts and Meg Zimmerman have been elected to serve in those 2 seats, those 3-year seats there, and Ethan Lawrence is returning to the Essex Select Board as well. Over to South Burlington.
Yes.
City budget has passed there, and the big one is the school budget in South Burlington. We also have a fire station addition there that passed by a significant margin, but that school budget just eked by yet again another year where those South Burlington voters are just barely supporting that school budget there, Debbie.
That's right. Yes. Yep. The increases are certainly adding to property taxes, so that's the big concern. But city council seat, we heard earlier from Andrew Chalnick. This is a very close city council seat. Two newcomers, and Beth Zigman won by just 31 votes over Amy Allen. The school directors were more uncontested races.
Worth noting there, Debbie, just in South Burlington in general, it looks like we did see an uptick in turnout compared to past years, probably due to a hard-fought campaign for city council.
Yes, that probably had a lot to do with it, and the school budget. I think.
Yeah. But a close school budget last year, but we had a few hundred more voters come out in South Burlington this year. Williston, we have the town budget has passed, but the big one, this library, Debbie, your library in Williston.
That's right. Yes, I am a resident of Williston. Yes, the library and Village Green expansion narrowly passed. There is also a reserve fund being established to train EMTs going forward, and a half-penny tax on the grand list has passed to provide more money to the Environmental Reserve Fund. Also, Williston is replacing elected town listers with a professional assessor. And the select board members were both uncontested. Jean Jensen is an incumbent, and McHugh Devitt is a newcomer.
Yeah, we've got the library trustees here as well. As a reminder, you can find all of these results at results.townmeeting.tv, where we have results for Burlington, Essex, South Burlington, Williston, Colchester. We also have Winooski, I believe, if we can maybe pull up Winooski, but the big one in not a whole lot going on in Winooski. The city budget has passed by a pretty significant margin there, and we also have a few bonds to expand the.
That's a housekeeping one we're looking at right there, and then yes, the bond for parking garage elevator and other improvements. Another one for sidewalk. And then one for upgrades to City Hall and the Police Department, all passed.
All of those are passing. And
this is another kind of housekeeping sort of thing about how to spend money.
School budget in Winooski has passed by a wide margin. I mean, that's not a lot of voters there. I'm trying to see, Debbie, if we have numbers on prior elections in Winooski, but not a whole lot on the ballot there. No. We do have that budget has passed, and the mayor of Winooski, Thomas Renner, has been elected. He was appointed to fill Christine Lott's seat, and now has officially been elected to complete her term for 1 year. So Thomas Renner remains the mayor of Winooski. And some uncontested city council races here, some new faces, but no contested races in Winooski.
Right, and same thing with the school board. There were 3 seats, but they were all filled by incumbents. They were uncontested.
Yes, and
the school treasurer.
And it looks like we do actually maybe have Colchester.
There we go. Yes.
There we go. Okay, so the town budget has passed in Colchester by a pretty wide margin, as well as the public safety capital plan.
Yes, that capital plan didn't really have any impact. It's just continuing what they've been doing. And the school budget.
I mean, that's quite close.
That was close.
That is close, but it's a yes.
But it passed.
Yep. And then incumbent Charlie Papillo has been reelected. But so that is interesting, Debbie. We were keeping a close eye on those school budgets, and at least in the area of Chittenden County that we were following, school budgets have passed. Yes. Which is just an interesting, an interesting moment for this conversation between affordability and our investment in our education system.
That's right. Yes, and I think the people, especially in a low turnout year, the people that are motivated to vote are usually on one extreme or the other. And I think a lot of parents who want to make sure that their children's education is good will turn out. We probably saw a lot of that, and then of course there are a lot of Vermonters who do strongly believe in education and want to invest in children, and so that's another reason that maybe they don't mind quite so much the ding on their wallets.
Yep, there you go. So, a good night for school budgets. Tax bills will probably be going up in a few of these municipalities. And that is all that we have for tonight's show. Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have? We do have.
Oh, good.
Yes, we have Burlington City Council, newly elected City Councilor Laura Sanchez Parkinson in the studio.
Well, thank you for joining me, Councilor. Thank you for being here, and congratulations. So what made you decide to be the new Councilor of Ward 3?
More than anything, I'm ready to serve our community. I think there are different issues that our community needs to be part of that decision making, and I'm just excited to be able to represent particularly Ward 3, where we have one of the most diverse wards in our city, and be able to represent the needs that our community needs.
And you're also the downtown ward. Downtown is often a very contentious thing. How do you expect to be an effective leader for everyone in your ward?
I'm thinking about what does safety and wellness look like for everyone in our city, but particularly those who are living downtown, but also working downtown and spending their time there. I'm really thinking about not only safety, but also housing. And so how do we think about the different needs that our community needs, both downtown and in the area?
Amazing, thank you. And is there any committees that you feel super passionate about that you want to be a part of? I know this is your first time and there's a lot of committees, so.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I hope to be able to represent in a couple different areas, but right now, top of mind is our work around racial equity, inclusion, and belonging. I am thrilled to know that our voters have supported the charter to institutionalize our racial equity and inclusion and belonging office, and I am excited to work with that team and to continue that work. And so that would be an area that I'm excited to keep moving forward.
And in 2 years, when you are potentially considering re-election again, what do you hope to bring to voters as to why they should vote for you? In 2 years, I know it's a long way away.
Yes, I am already getting connected both across parties to really think about housing solutions, to think about how do we equitably thinking about taxes in our city. And so my hope is that in 2 years, I'm able to work in collaboration with our councilors across the board and be able to come up with solutions and ideas that feel and resonate with our community.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to send it back to Bobby and Debbie and close us out.
Thank you so much, Travis. Thank you, Laura Sanchez Parkinson, one of the newest Burlington City Council, actually the only new Burlington City Councilor as a result of this election tonight. Huge shout out to Travis Washington and the folks here at Town Meeting TV, this incredible team that has brought many of the voices that were on your ballot right into your living room tonight. So thank you so much to this amazing team. Thank you also to our underwriting partners, these local small businesses and local organizations that support the work of Town Meeting TV. The work of Town Meeting TV is supported by a very small number of local businesses and organizations, as well as by you, and we really hope that you will support tonight's broadcast and our coverage of local elections. Town Meeting TV is regularly one of the only media outlets that invites every candidate running for city council and select board on the ballot, and even some that aren't, like our friend Eli Van Buren, who was a write-in candidate in Ward 8. We made sure that his voice was heard tonight as well. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for following local democracy. Thank you for supporting Town Meeting TV. Thank you, Debbie, for providing some really incredible insight tonight on the election results. Really, it's been such a pleasure.
Well, thank you, and it has been a pleasure. See you here next year, if not sooner.
Let's do it. We've been doing this for a really long time here at Town Meeting TV. Over 30 years, we've been reporting Town Meeting Day election results. A member of our team here, a beloved member of our team, Chris Laviolette, who works diligently on our archives here at CCTV, has pulled together footage from previous election coverage from our Town Meeting Day shows and election coverage from 2016, 2006, 1996. And we're going to take a look Down history lane here to close out the show. I want to thank everyone here at Town Meeting TV again. You can find all the results that we reported here tonight at results.townmeeting.tv. And thank you so much for tuning in, and good night.
It is 7 o'clock. The polls have just about closed. So results should come flying in, and we're going to make sure we tell you all about that. In the meanwhile, we thought we'd give you a little preview of what we're going to be covering tonight, what sort of the interesting races are, the important ballot items, and such. So since we have Jane with us, which is a surprise guest, thank you, Jane, for coming up.
Last minute development.
Yes. Let's talk about Burlington first.
Sure.
So first off, Jane, tell us, there are no Burlington candidates and races. What's up with that?
Well, yeah, this is kind of a funny year because, as people have noticed, there were no city council races on this ballot. And the reason is that we are transitioning after redistricting.
Good evening and welcome to Channel 17's coverage of Town Meeting 2006. I'm Jess Wilson and I'm here on the Channel 17 set along with Joel Najman, and this is the start of what we hope isn't a really long night, but honestly we have no idea, Joel, how long of an evening it's going to be because IRV has come to Burlington and it's certainly changing the way things happen here at Channel 17.
Absolutely. Well, of course, back in the old days, which was only 2 years ago, we would be ward to ward trying to get information. One ward would come in early, usually one ward would come in late, and we would have partial results. But with IRV, everything gets tabulated first at the City Hall. So it's something that we're really not entirely sure is how it's going to work out. But we know we will have a new mayor of Burlington by night's end. When exactly we learn that information is to be seen.
Channel 17 and WKDR welcome you to live continuing Vermont Town Meeting Day election coverage. Good evening. I'm Andy Potter, along with Mark Johnson and political scientist Garrison Nelson of the University of Vermont. And off we go again. The polls are closed around the state of Vermont, and now all we have to do is wait for the results. Gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you, and this has become quite a tradition. We hope to have everything for you within the next 2 to 3 hours. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, everybody's watching the presidential primaries today and the local issues. We expect to have numbers out of the city of Burlington coming up probably within the next few minutes, ward by ward. And a little bit later, we hope we can, actually, I think right now, Gary, we can probably call the presidential primary.